Good day, welcome to Great White Retro. I'm Gord Fessick. This was Gigi, and our topic today is Atari's first answer to the Commodore 64. This is a pretty rare find. It's an Atari 1200XL. And with any luck, we'll get it working and get it cleaned up. Let's get her done. This 1200XL belongs to Jason Trester, here just in Shawano. He found this while cleaning out someone's house, and because we've dealt with him before, he thought of me when he encountered this. This was obviously used for business because it has some accessories that didn't normally come with that 1200XL. I'll explain where that cable comes from later on. But the Atari Writer cartridge was included there, as well as a power supply that rattled a little bit, and I wasn't going to trust that. Fortunately, we do have spare power supplies that'll work on this computer. I do have an idea for how to address that. This is an 8-bit Classics power adapter. It even says on the label that it's for a 1200XL. And speaking of 8-bit Classics, I also have a video cable from them. Let's see what we get with this machine. What? That's interesting. Atari. Guess this thing had some caps that needed charging. The power LED is not working by the looks of things. Maybe the keyboard isn't working. Okay, well, let's try putting in BASIC. That is a cookie. Alright, let's see what we get. Guess I got it in backwards. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. Let's try a game. There, that fit. So already we've got problems. We got no keys. We've got no cartridge port. We've got no power LED. But we do have some signs of life in that we've got color video. Just for curiosity's sake, let's see if we've got S video on here. Okay, we do not have S-video. We've only got luminance, no chrominance. That's the same thing that I ran into on the 800XL. I had to lift a resistor and cross-connect something else to enable the chrominance pin. But that shouldn't be too difficult. If it's the same modification, it should be doable. I decided I wasn't going to do that because this isn't my computer to do it with. But let's take this thing apart and try to figure out why the power LED and the keyboard isn't working. Atari also built this machine like a tank, much like the earlier models. This was way too expensive a machine for the day. Commodore was blowing these guys out of the water with this. But Atari did try to correct course. The 800XL is pretty much a clone of this machine, except built-in BASIC, and a much reduced cost. I noticed something about the BASIC cartridge that came with it. The guard is completely shot. So that wasn't fitting in there.
same with the Atari writer. So that cartridge is no good either. Neither of these were fitting right. So I grabbed a basic from my Atari 400, put that in. And now I at least get something. It's not much. Okay, keyboard's hooked back up. Oh, we got a power LED now. Power LED is on. There we go. Now we lost the power LED, but we still don't have any keys. Wonder if it's just a matter of resoldering some busted lines. When I tapped this, it was dark and then it came back on. Now it's back. Still only have 2 keys. Oh, we got spacebar. Oh, down to 5. Yeah, with that up there loose, it may just be loose solder joints. Let's see. Let's put Pac-Man in here and try out the joystick ports, see if they behave. Okay. Oh, so far so good. Yep. More or less what I would expect. It's possible this is the first game that was ever played on here, given the previous owner's usage of this thing. I know how to play Pac-Man, honest. Hey, got him. I was able to fake him out. Yay! There's 1. There's 2. Alright, this is very simple. Just a few LEDs and some wires. I'll just reflow these solder joints. The keyboard, I'm hoping it's simple too, because we do have a few keys.
The solder reflow was pretty easy. I just had to redo those joints. That power LED was very loose, but I didn't trust the other ones either, so I quickly touched all of those up as well. And there we go. We got our power LED back, and it's completely stable. Don't know what the other LEDs are for. Maybe I'll find out. I tried the same thing with the keyboard connector. This reminded me a lot of the TRS-80 Model 1, fortunately without nearly as flaky a ribbon cable. As it turned out, that didn't make a difference at all. Oh well. Even a bit of deoxit on the connectors didn't make a difference. The same working keys were there, and all of the other keys were just as busted. Ah yes, the wonderful Mitsumi keyboards with the zillion tiny little screws.
Gotta wonder how much coin Mitsumi made off of the likes of Commodore and Atari.
Well, I hope they got paid well for this, at least. Although maybe they had to take a few of these things back, because, as I found out, this design of keyboard was never used in a subsequent Atari computer, and we'll find out why.
Oh, don't these look familiar? Oh, and lovely. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. A keyboard membrane, and it's already peeling off here. This was the same failure point on all of the SX64 keyboards. I wonder if there's a membrane available for a 1200XL.
Well, there isn't any old stock, but there is an outfit called Best Electronics. I mentioned these guys in an earlier video, and they're about as 1980s as you can get. But they do have modern replacements for keyboard membranes, among many other things. But the only way I'm going to get this thing fixed properly is if I take all of the keys off of here. Not to mention this keyboard is a filthy mess anyway, so I get my keyboard puller, and I just pull all those keys out. The top row of keys have special springs and keys. They also have special plungers, so I set those aside after taking these off. All of the other plungers appeared to be identical, and all the remaining springs, except for the spacebar spring, were identical. Yeah, look at that. They're all different plungers for the top row. It kind of reminds me of the Commodore 128. Now, I have been told to show the whole key removal montage, so okay, there you go. At least I've got it going at 4 times regular speed. I hope you appreciate that much. Even if you think you got a working keyboard, it's a good idea to clean these things up anyway. And with that done, we can then get the spacebar off of there. This spacebar design is much like the Commodore spacebars. I think the only real difference is the key type, and the key plunger is a little different. That spring is different as well. But those tabs do look familiar. I should have expected as such coming from Mitsumi. I wonder if Atari and Commodore were having a size contest with their spacebars. And I'm like, come on, that's not how you remove a Mitsumi spacebar. There you go. That spacebar stabilizer is just a little bit rusted. I cleaned it up, and it seemed okay. Well, let's get this and all the other keys soaking and all cleaned up. Look at that disgusting keyboard tray. Anyway. Yeah, we'll give it a good dusting. We'll give it a proper wash as well. But already it looks a lot better. Here are the keys, and like I've done for other keyboards, I just use a small container and a bit of dish soap, and I let them soak for an extended period. That gets the majority of the grime off while I go off and do other things. There we go, a little bit of a shake. And we'll come back to that in a bit. Next, let's work on that keyboard frame. Just a little bit of scrubbing to deal with that. This was in pretty good shape. You know, if Mitsumi used a different circuit board type, you might be able to use the Commodore-style key plungers on this. In fact, that might have been what happened with the 800XL later. So I'm getting this case ready for retrobrighting, and I don't need to have the brown parts or the clear parts on here during the process. But the brown parts snap off with these 4 snaps here, and then it slides off toward the front for that to come off. And there's a clear section that's across the top where it has those labels, reset power, and so forth. So I make sure to get that off of there. The clear plastic didn't seem all that faded or yellowed, so I left it alone. The rest of the case, however, was a bit of a mess. It almost looks like they spilled coffee in here, which makes a lot of sense since this was a business machine by all looks of things. This computer didn't come with any game cartridges. It only came with the Atari Writer and the BASIC cartridge. But the Atari Writer and BASIC didn't actually have a circuit board in there, as I found out later on. And I'm like, really? Where are the circuit boards for those cartridges? It's a good thing I had a working BASIC to test this with. But yeah, let's get some dish soap and baking soda. I didn't need to have any alcohol on there, and baking soda took care of a lot of the scuffs that I couldn't take off with the dish soap. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I could certainly see a difference of yellowing on the top half of that case versus the parts that were not exposed, the parts that were covered by the brown bits. This is the cartridge and game port slots, and those were covered in marks that just really took a lot of effort. You can see there some of the scuffs, but I was able to get that off of there with baking soda and a lot of elbow grease, a lot of work, and a lot of patience. It was one of the toughest cleaning jobs I've had to do so far. But there it is, nice and clean. I'm going to put this case back together for the retrobrighting. Now, here's my problem with the bottom half of the case. There's more gunk, or possibly coffee stains, right? But the inside isn't the problem. It's this paper label. I don't know if I can remove that without damaging it, but I do have an idea. I will try to clean around this, and I will use the same window sealant that I use on windows during the winter to try to protect this badge. Okay, well, this is an older, slightly dulled razor knife, and I'm having some success with this. And of course I ruin it, right on camera. Alright, well, let's try my original plan then. Well, plan B didn't work out either, because the window sealant tape just wouldn't fit properly around there. So I wound up covering the entire label in packing tape. This is pretty stout packing tape. It's from the local post office. But with this, I was able to make this label quite water resistant. In fact, I dare say it's close to waterproof. Now, your mileage may vary. Different packing tapes will have different levels of water resistance, and the stuff that the post office sells is probably the best stuff you can get. You pay a premium for it, but it's meant to be used in shipping packages in pretty lousy weather, so yeah. But I get all that smoothed out, I'm able to cut away at the excess with my razor knife, and then I smoothed out the rest of it. It seemed to work out quite well. And I used a dull spatula to remove the excess tape. Tried to smooth this out best as I could, but I think I succeeded. It's a good thing Atari has these extra wide spaces so that we can seal up these labels like this. Alright, next let's get the rest of the coffee stains out of there. Good old dish soap for the inside, and baking soda for the outside. And as I rinsed this thing, I tested its water resistance, and it was pretty strong. So I'm pretty confident this thing will be able to survive a retrobrighting using submersion without damaging that label any further. Here's the case before I put it in there. I am trying to get a good shot of how it looks before the retrobright. At a correct angle, you can see a color difference between the exposed and unexposed bits. Otherwise, that's my submersion method that I used starting with the Apple IIe a good couple years ago now. And that's just tap water, and that's 12% peroxide. I dialed things back this time around. Yeah, I'll say that. It's like I couldn't find any 35% hydrogen peroxide anymore. No, I'm using the 12% on purpose. But still, this wasn't too bad. Coming back and checking on it every 30 minutes, and then 3 hours later I come back and it's pretty much done. You'll see in a bit. Yeah, look at that. I can't tell the difference at least, and neither can the camera. I'd call this case done. And that label survived without a scratch. Even after a bit drying off, it came through intact, so now I know what to do with Atari systems from this point forward. Come on, king of outtakes, come here. Are you done your inspection? This is the circuit board for the 1200XL. As you can see, this membrane is even worse now. Best Electronics advised us that we may need to use a heat gun or a hairdryer because this will be sticking pretty toughly to this board, but this membrane is in such awful shape that I can just peel the majority of it off like that. No wonder it wasn't working. So what we got to do is give this a good clean. But Best Electronics also advised us not to clean this part. That's the connectors where the keyboard itself actually connects to. And that's backwards, right? Because it mates to that. The problem is either this is more Mylar or this is just corroded, which was part of the big problem, I suspect. So I gotta do something. I know it's raised, but I gotta do something. Maybe graphite, I don't know. We'll figure that out when we clean this. Well, some alcohol and we get this circuit board cleaned up so the contacts are clean at least. As for that little strip on the bottom, I know Best Electronics says I shouldn't mess with that, but it looked like it had very lousy contacts. I ended up peeling this thing off. Fortunately, they do have a workaround because it seems that they do expect people to end up scrubbing this area anyway. But I did take a spatcher to remove the remaining material that was on there. But don't worry, there is a workaround for getting the contacts good on here, even if you have cleaned in here. I'm supposed to use this extra circuit board, and there's mounting holes for it there, to sit in between the main circuit board and the replacement Mylar. So we'll see how that goes. I actually got it on backwards at first. I originally put the Mylar on top. It turns out this Mylar doesn't even have any adhesive. I guess it just sits loose on there, and it's held in place by screws. I suppose it doesn't need to be fastened with an adhesive. It was just unexpected. It might have saved them some money too. But before we can do that, let's get all the key plungers back in there. That top row has special plungers, so we got those separate. The whole rest of the keyboard has the same plungers. Interesting that the spacebar and control keys have multiple switches rather than just the one switch. I guess that way they didn't need to have stabilizers for those keys. But since the circuit's identical for each of those, why not? Oh well, to each their own. These plungers look like they could fit Commodore keys as well. I bet that with a different circuit board and a different design, you could use like carbon contacts or gold contacts or anything but Mylar. Anything but a keyboard membrane. Just a few more. And there we go. That's done.
Alright, so I need this thing. And it looks like things are held in place on this bracer here. I'm going to need some way to hold this in place. If Best Electronics is to be believed, I'm just supposed to rest this here.
Yeah, apparently that's what I'm supposed to do. So I give it a try, we'll put a few screws in, and just without replacing the keys, let's see how it works.
Well, at least if it doesn't fit, I know this isn't permanent, and I can always take it off to try to readjust it. I suppose I can place a few strategic screws, hook everything up, and see what happens.
Okay, let's get this keyboard hooked back up. I end up grabbing a lid to use as a spacer. There we go. Let's see what we get.
Okay. We got power. We got composite video. Let's see if we get any life. Okay, it's booting. I'm going to need a working BASIC cartridge, though. Okay. 2. Hey, this is working. Enter isn't working, but I don't understand why Enter isn't doing anything. At least I think this is Enter. That is interesting how we got one stuck key.
Well, I'm not going to have much luck with this. I have to put the keys back on there, otherwise if I try turning this board upside down and removing the circuit board, all these plungers are just going to fall out on me again. So I go to the trouble to reinstall all of the keys. This is at least clean now, so we have that much. Again, there's that dual switch shift key, and there's the other dual switch shift key. I'll try not to make you wait too long. I did do some significant edits to this key reinsert montage. But still, some people enjoy this, so I kept it in here. Strangely, Atari didn't have an Atari logo key. Which is odd, because I thought they had an Atari logo key on the 400. Okay, the last of the regular keys, the delete/backspace. And now all the function keys. These things do have a metallic grain, and I tried to make sure that the grain was horizontal. That seemed to match the metallic bits of the case. I got one of them backwards there, so I did some adjustments. Alright, just one more key. What's taking so long? There, get on there, you. Next, let's fit this properly again. Let's get that little circuit board in between the two pieces now, and not on top. That should fix things. There's enter. Okay. Okay. That's it. We've got a working keyboard. Let's just check Pac-Man one more time. Make sure the select and start buttons work. Okay, that's option. That's select. That's start. Okay, brake is working. The funny... Oh, that's reverse. Okay. And I don't know what help is supposed to do, but it isn't responding in BASIC at least. It may respond in some other apps. Well, now we got a working keyboard. We can put this thing back together. And there we are. That label is still intact, fortunately. Let's get the main board in there. The main board just needed a bit of a dusting, so a bit of compressed air. The RF shield is held in place with these rivet-like things. They are removable, but they're metallic, unlike a lot of plastic ones that I've seen. Atari, again, spared no expense for RF shielding. Let's get the rest of the framing on the top half of the keyboard, including the clear plastic on the top. I think I got this backwards at first, but I was able to get it sorted out. I tried really hard to make sure I didn't leave fingerprints on the underside of that. And again, then it just slid forward, or it slid up, and a bit of pressure there, and I think it was fine. Yeah, there we go. Because now with that frame in place, we can install the LED holder and the keyboard. This was a pretty stout installation. That circuit board wasn't going anywhere. Here's the bottom half, and this was a pretty easy install, actually, all things considered. Okay, I think I used an extra screw on the inside. I'll go in and retrieve that. But aside from that, this case is pretty stout. And all finished. Here's a before shot with the yellow top, busted keyboard, busted power LED, and the after shot with a Retrobrighted top half, working keyboard, working power LEDs, and ready for some things besides business. Let's try out some stuff on floppy.
And the neat thing is, this is just the first half of this Atari lot. I've got a fancy third-party disk drive sitting downstairs, and even has an extra feature on it where you can hook up a parallel port printer behind it. We'll see about getting that one working in a future episode. In the meantime, I can hand back this nice Atari 1200XL, and hopefully they'll be able to get a good profit off of this guy. Well, until we work on that floppy drive, good day.